Hi, everyone. I'm Stan Mallow. Welcome to Paranormal Yacker. My guest on today's show is acclaimed author, intuitive healer, speaker, metaphysics teacher, and much sought after visionary spiritual mentor, Amanda Romania. I'll be yakking with her about Akashic Records. Amanda Romania, welcome to Paranormal Yacker.
Thanks, Stan, and thanks and welcome to everybody that's watching this. It's amazing and wonderful to be here.
For those viewers in my audience who may not be familiar with the Akashic Records, could you explain, Amanda, what it is, its history, its purpose, and what are the benefits for a person to know what's in their Akashic Records?
I've been working with the Akashic Records this lifetime for about 20 years, and what I came to understand was that we carry these databases of our souls, and there is a central database that has been talked about for many ancient times, talked through the ancient civilizations, and it's a little bit, I would describe, like the spiritual cloud, that we can tap into this information of ourselves and of our universe to bring through some of the ideas or thoughts that sometimes seem out of our consciousness. What I found was that there were various different realms of this spiritual library that if you tapped into it, you can learn about yourself. I also began to see that you were able to find things that were blocking you, or sacred contracts you created, or karmic imbalance. By working with the Akashic Records, you're able to reveal that, clear it, heal that, and really help yourself on your spiritual journey.
Do you recall, Amanda, when your spiritual journey in life began, a journey that eventually led to you establishing yourself as Master Akashic Record Oracle and Librarian?
For my first part of my life, you'll probably know from my accent, I'm originally English. I now live in Sedona, Arizona in the USA. As a child growing up, I was very, what I would call emotionally intuitive. Being short in height, I was able to kind of navigate school and the playground. Then in my first job in retail, was able to read the customers and the families that I was working with. And I just thought that everyone could do this. And I had my own retail stores, and it was around about the age of 30-year-old, just after I'd had my daughter, I started to have insight that there might be a bigger world out there than corporate and business and the 9 to 5 daily job. And I went to a place called Glastonbury, which is a sacred site in England. It was there that I met my teacher, my spiritual teacher. She was called Isis, and she took me into some of her workshops, and I was able to really understand that there was this other world of clairvoyance, this other world of psychic and spiritual connections. And then when it really took off for me was when I went to Egypt. There I was having all these past life downloads and experiences and initiations, and I thought I'd been in all of these past lives. After 2 weeks, totally exhausted, my brain was all over the place. Someone said to me, "How could you be in all of these experiences time after time?" Someone else asked another question, and then they said, "You're reading the Akashic." And that's where my choice of going into the Akashic field really started. Things would just come to me that I've developed over 20 years. That's how I stay the path, do what I do here in Sedona now.
Your book, Akashic Cosmic Connections, gives the keys and codes with other realms and guides your readers on how they can connect with the alien races that have influenced and continue to influence human life. What feedback have you received from those who have read the book?
The Cosmic Connection, the Akashic Cosmic Connection book, I actually wrote when I got here to Sedona. At first, with the Akashic Records, I was people's past lives, their current life karma, life between lives and future lives. When I got to Sedona, I began to see that we spoke a certain language here in Sedona that was very, I call it ET cosmic friendly. They talked about the Palladians and the Syrians, the Arcturians. While I was speaking at conferences, I began to notice that there were multiple different races. Someone would start to talk to me. They didn't have the language skills to talk back to their star families. That is the biggest thing that I feel that people have been able to acknowledge with that book, is I can talk to my friends and family in the cosmic realms. Whereas they didn't quite understand the purpose of different star energies or the different languages or the way that they connected. Some star races, they like to do the glyphs and the light language. Some star races, it's the speaking word or the tones and the sounds. So what my book did was it connected with, I think there's 18, 19 different races, and gave them an idea of their purpose and how these races are helping humanity.
In Akashic Cosmic Connections, you end each chapter with a meditation to help readers find peace and growth. Can you share one of those meditations?
One of those meditations, the one that comes to me, is the one connected to, it's a Palladian star called Alcyone. The Alcyonians are very much bringing through messages of peace, helping with these new star children at the moment. And how I structured the book, or how they asked me to structure the book, was with the small meditation connection. And then it went into how the race works with us. Then it goes into that meditation to take you to connect back. So for me, the key was within that, what I call that call-up link, like you would use your mobile phone. To go into that meditation, would you like me to channel something from them?
If you feel guided to that, that would be great. You said it, yes.
Yes, I don't have the book in front of me, but there's always, the other thing is there's fresh information. So let's see one of the messages. I'm going to use my cards as well so that we're getting all the communication. The Alcyonians are letting us know that we are your ancient ancestors. We are with you at this time of change on your planet. We know that we're connected to you in the depths of your heart, and we're working with you in those root and sacral chakras to bring this change point time that is critical on your planet right now, that the whole planet is involved with, totally the whole planet is involved with at this time of consciousness and change. And by allowing yourselves to connect to that Palladian frequency, you're able to bring through that peace and move through this transition at this time. And so it is.
Thank you. That was quite beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. In Akashic Therapy, Unlock the Secrets of Your Soul, which you authored, you write that Akashic Therapy works with sacred meditation to examine the past, present, future, and between life for healing, clearing, and clarity. Can you elaborate on some of the different types of life situations which Akashic Therapy has been used?
Being British, and I'm Aries with Aquarius rising, I like to have things in the library where it's simple, it's clear and gentle to go into. Just by unlocking some of these various record houses in the library, I found that people could bring great healing and clearing to themselves. There's a couple of situations where with clients and students that we address more or less every single day. One of the main ones is relationships. The Akashic libraries provide a great healing tool for helping people understand why they're in certain relationships, and then allow them to move through these relationships when they either no longer serve. So one of the key ones is when person comes to me and they say to me, my marriage is broken down. I'm trying to move through this spiritual divorce. I don't want to bring any more harm to this person. How can I move through it with mine and their Akashic records? What we're able to do is I use a meditation going into a garden, which I find the garden sanctuary gives a great gentle visualization. By going into that space, we're able to examine why they were in this relationship, if there's past lives, if there's karma, and what are the sacred contracts that need to be renegotiated and cleared. And what we find then is this puts a whole different frequency on 3D relationship and takes it into a spiritual field that's a lot more gentler for the soul. Relationships, the life between life area is an amazing area to examine, that you can realize why you came to this earth. So many of my clients will say to me, I did not choose my parents or my family. And I will say, well, perhaps on some levels you did. We take them into the life between lives and they go, oh, this is why I chose these people as parents. I chose them for that location, these key lessons. And there's a great healing that can occur when they see this clarity. It opens up in many different realms of everyday life, and that's why I love the practicality of it.
Based on the Akashic Records, you have developed a unique deck of oracle cards, aptly named Akashic Records Oracle cards. How do they differ from other oracle and divination cards, such as the tarot?
I've been reading with cards for nearly 20 years, Stan. The one thing that I found was that there's many teachers out there that work with oracle cards. As I went into the Akashic Records, I started to work with many different decks. The reason I love cards is because it is a very safe, connected medium, and it brings through information like magnets from the other fields and the other dimensions without having to sit and think about channeling and bringing messages through from the other dimensions and realms. And what I found was that there was various teachers with oracle cards that had decided that they were no longer working with them. So that was the first thing, that a lot of my decks, I wasn't getting great readings with. I wasn't feeling comfortable. And I ended up with a box with nearly 1,000 cards in this, because I had 8, 9, 10 decks going at once. Suddenly one day I said, what are the 44 key things that I need in an oracle deck to help me read people's records, but not only read them, to actually activate certain things. Because it's a visual, it brings an awareness. The person that I'm working with is actually working with their own Akashic records. Their eyes and their hearts are picking up the signals and messages as well. So most people would say to me, this started to happen, or this changed in my life after that reading. And I always make sure I text images of the cards to people so they're constantly calibrating with their records. And in that way, my deck not only gives information, it writes and reads things in the record. Whereas with tarot, and I sometimes will work with tarot cards. Tarot cards bring us information that is on current time, but I haven't found that they influence the records. They just bring us, okay, today, these are the energies, this is the reading. With my oracle deck, the main thing that it's used by mostly people that are actually doing readings out there. Professionals are using it. I see my deck on YouTube. That's the main thing that they will say, is they connect with it and it gives them the information they need to do their work.
Every year, Amanda, you lead spiritual journeys to sacred sites and energy centers around the globe. This includes locations such as Egypt, Glastonbury, and Peru. What is it about these sites that makes them so special and puts them on such a high vibration and spiritual plateau? Also, do they have any common characteristics?
Yes, sacred journeys, that's one of my highlights of the year. I've been doing that, taking groups and facilitating with groups for nearly 20 years. Before COVID, we were doing maybe 1 to 2 sometimes journeys a year. In 2019, I did Peru in the spring, and then I did Egypt in the fall. When you're in these areas for spiritual awareness, activation, information, these areas I've come to understand, they have very connected ley lines, sometimes crystalline formations. They're at certain positions on the planet. And it's these locations that the ancient ones, their shaman, their teachers, their prophets would be guided to, because the energy frequency is so much higher. Now, various people around the planet calibrate them. They can actually see the electrical content of those areas as they are. We are made up of electricity, water, and our bodily matter. When we come into contact with their electrical pulse, it changes ours, and it opens up a lot of those psychic senses, awareness, chakra areas within our body that we're able to see through other dimensions. We're able to feel energies, translate the spiritual field back to ourselves. What I found was that all of them have these similar directives. So they all tend to use pyramids. They all tend to use the elements of water and fire and air and earth. They all tend to have these codices, or places that they write like the hieroglyphics. So they leave their messages, they leave their sacred word. They all had very similar protocols of ritual. Maybe they wore some different costumes, but when you take it all the way back, there is this common link. of behaviors. So for me, as soon as I understood how I worked in temples in Egypt, it became very easy for me to apply that in Central and South America. It became easy for me to apply that in places such as Stonehenge and Glastonbury, because once I understood their ways, and even in Sedona here, because this was a place where the Native Americans came to Vision Quest. For me, I believe that all goes back to some teachings through Atlantis, possibly when we were energy beings through Lemuria. It just translated out across the globe.
For over 20 years, Amanda, you have worked with sacred site energy, Egyptian initiation, temple wisdom, and with indigenous elders. At Atlantis Metaphysical Center, a hub in Sedona for spiritual development, you offer a wide range of services and products. Can you tell me about some of them?
What I've created here is it's an environment where people come in to experience. There's many amazing crystal shops and metaphysical shops in town. And what happens when people step in here into my space is they have this kind of activation because we have the products, we have an activating healing bed. People come in for readings in this particular room or classes, spiritual development. What we're able to do is answer all of their questions from angels to ETs to crystals to sacred sites, because we've had this kind of very, very broad education. People will sometimes say to me, well, what is Sedona? I will say, well, it's beautiful, it's activating, but it's a spiritual university. That's the main thing to know. I'm here on campus. I'm one of the teachers. I've been here for 10 years. Therefore, like any university you go into various different experiences there. And that's what I've created here. So it's living, it's working, it's an experience.
Should viewers of Paranormal Yacker want to buy your books or oracle cards, learn about your sacred journeys, book a personal reading with you, take one of your classes, and learn more about you and all that's happening at Atlantis Metaphysical Center, what is your contact information?
It's very simple. www.amandaromania.com. That's the website. It has all of the information. You can go book online. You can get directed into our Etsy shop so you can buy the product, buy the books. And there's also the information of the courses and workshops that I do and on the sacred journeys. So it's a one-stop shop, very simple and easy.
Amanda Romania, I thank you for being my guest on Paranormal Yacker. I wish you continued success with all that you do. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Stan. It's my honor, my pleasure, and I'm totally, totally delighted to be here. So, blessings for you. Namaste.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stan Mallow, the Paranormal Yacker. I hope you enjoyed the interview you just watched. To be sure you don't miss any interviews on my free YouTube channel, all you have to do is press the subscribe button on your screen.